I just want it to be common sense. Does anybody with a straight face have the capacity to say, yeah, the Democrats are strong on the border and immigration, and Trump isn't? I mean, it beggars belief. It's risible. It's risible.
That's one of the weaker points Stephen made, but I think a very strong point that he made right at the end, and one I'd like to hear you answer.
So this is Stephen Bonnell, aka Destiny on the Trigonometry, but it's Trigger Debates. And we are seeing some debate channels coming up, which is great to see. Crossfire, there was a market for it, and it's, Andrew Wilson and the Crucible is doing well, and of course Pierce Morgan. This is Sebastian Gorka, somebody who I don't really like. I think is a MI. Let me not say that out loud. Let me not finish that. I kind of held on to the 6. I was like, he's like an MI. I was like, you can see me working as the algorithm was like, what are you about to say, my nigga? The algorithm's like, you might as well just say it. We know what you're about to say. Sebastian Gorka on with Destiny on Trigonometry with the Trigger Debates, and we're going to interweave this conversation with the top 10 things Trump did today on so many things happening on January 31st.
Is Donald Trump, you say, didn't build the wall because there was a lack of support from the other side. They were not acting in good faith. Okay. Well, you think there's going to be more good faith after he gets elected, let's say in 2024?
Right. I'm not sure it's the good faith that's the problem. He seems to paint President Trump.
No, you said this earlier.
No, but let me just unpack it in terms of what's possible and what isn't. I said this when I was in the White House. I said it after I left the White House. Donald Trump won the election despite the GOP, not thanks to the GOP. I mean, this is the oddity. I mean, this is what Americans forget, and I find it funny that I have to remind Americans who were born here, unlike me, a legal immigrant, that Donald Trump, the American people did something utterly historic in 2016. Because prior to that...
You don't want to miss this. If I'm going to give Sebastian Gorka credit, he did pretty well, and that's what I'm going to do here.
Every chief executive, from George Washington to Obama, was from the same class. They were either senators, congressmen, governors, or retired 4-star generals. Every single one, from George Washington to Obama. Then what did the American people do in 2016? They say, we've had it with the swamp, the establishment, the rhinos, the Democrats. They elect a man who's never run for any office, not county dog catcher, a guy who has no political background, and they say, F you to the establishment, we want him. That's actually historic.
Yep.
Now, that's what the president had to compete with. When we walked into the White House on January 21st.
Yep. Let me pause and talk about the first thing that I wanted to talk about that Donald Trump did today, January 31st. He did solidify the tariffs. Looking at the news, Trump confirmed 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China starting now. In the East Coast, it's about midnight here in the Mountain Time Zone. He rejected last-minute negotiations. Canada's Justin Trudeau, he said, you know what? We're going to have retaliation, but, you're going to be out. He's not running for re-election, so he's going to be out. But the tariffs are for real. Donald Trump confirmed them. Let's get back to the clip. That's the news today. So you see Sebastian Gorka talking about 2016. You fast forward to today, I have to give Trump 100% credit. That is an America First position. It is a costly one that would increase prices on Canadian imports, but that is what you need to do if you want to rebuild America. Let's get back to the clip.
I said this publicly back then. There were less than 20 of us in senior positions like myself who were actually America First and MAGA, right? Because it was an insurgency. It was a political insurgency. The establishment hated President Trump. We had people inside the building who were actively subverting him, even his former chief of staff. That will not happen in a second Trump administration because the president understands what Reagan taught us. Personnel is policy. We can't have, people betraying the will of the American voter inside the wire, inside the building. It's more than just, oh, well, he didn't pass legislation. He actively had people who believe in the footsie under the table with the other side.
Yes, he did. Donald Trump was fighting against that. Sebastian Gorka he basically put Destiny over his knee and just spanked him as far as debates go. This is just really bad. But the second thing that Trump did that I want to go over is this transformer protection rollback. Public health, this is via the AP, so it's a trusted source, YouTube. Did you hear that? A trusted source, YouTube. Public health data disappeared from websites. Entire web pages went blank and employees erased pronouns from email signatures. Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Trump didn't have the power to mandate that. AOC already removed the pronouns from her profile. This is big news. Mayor Pete removed the he, him. So if you're at work and you felt obligated, if you're on LinkedIn, you feel obligated, it's over. It's done. If Nate, I think it was, shoot, I remember it was one of the Tower, is it the Tower Gang dudes? One of them said, it was Royce, I think, he said, if Mayor Pete, you don't have to pretend to be gay anymore. Mayor Pete, it's over. You don't have to pretend anymore, man. You sacrificed a lot for the grift, but thankfully you don't have to, let's just say, take it anymore. Federal agencies scrambled to comply with a directive tied to President Trump's order rolling back protections for transformers. The Office of Personnel Management directed agency heads to strip, gender ideology from websites. It's not as base as you might think. They went from the LGBTQ whatever plus stuff to just LGB and thought that was based. Nice try. It's better than nothing, I guess, but that's definitely not based. Some parts of government websites appeared with the message, the page you're looking for was not found. That is and I saw some trolling stuff. I don't know if it was real or not. So I'm not reporting that. I don't see it on the AP. They probably wouldn't have put it on there if they didn't want to. But let's get back to the clip.
I'll get my cushy, lobbyist job after I leave Congress. That's changed in the last 8 years. The Republican Party now is MAGA, is America First. There's a few holdouts and rhinos who are leaving, like Mitt Romney, but the situation for getting even more stuff fixed is much brighter than it was when we walked in 2016.
Anything you want to say?
Populism usually takes a pretty predictable route where people are frustrated with.
See, this is again the left, or a lot of these people, populism. What they're really saying is popularism. They're not talking about populism. Populism has nothing to do with how popular something is, by my definition. So Destiny not talking about populism. You can make up whatever definition you want for any word. The way he's using populism is not the way that I use populism. So bring it back and you hear him say populism. No, he's talking about being popular. That's a completely different thing.
Was when we walked in 2016.
Anything you want to say?
Populism usually takes a pretty predictable route where people are frustrated with a set of circumstances, which, to be fair, there's a lot of things to be frustrated about. And what you do is you turn to a strong man who promises to deliver you from all of your evils, to deliver you from the pain and the suffering of whatever around you, because
I thought you were for democracy. Isn't that how democracy works? He's talking about popularism. Isn't that how it works, Stephen?
he's the one source of truth, the one source of goodness, the one guy that can get the job done. That's what Donald Trump sold himself as when he came into office. And like every populist, he came in, he overpromised, and he underdelivered. Trump failed on every single conceivable metric when it came to being a president, besides, and I will admit, he is very funny. He's very funny. He's got good stage presence, and he can work a crowd.
That's not a small thing. But yeah, Destiny did have to admit that. Let me look at Mike. Mike has bad knees. Says you keep wilding out on ChatGPT, but it's just giving you the information that's publicly available. It is a logical thinking, as far as it, not like humans, but it processes information. You can give it math problems to solve, logic problems. Like if you're going to do a test or something like that, here's what I use ChatGPT for, believe it or not. I took pictures of my kids. So my kid came home. I'll tell you, my 8-year-old came home, and he came home with a math test that wasn't up to the standard that I expect. And I wasn't like harsh or punished like that, but I was like, well, number one, don't even look at that tablet until we figure out what the hell's going on. Well, I didn't say it like that, but in my head. And so, I came to him, say, hey, what's going on? And I think what it is that he just wanted to rush through the test and didn't really read it through. So here's what I did. I took pictures. This is how good ChatGPT is. I took pictures of his test. I already know the answers. It's actually pretty advanced for 8-year-old. I didn't know we did all that at 8-year-old. So I was surprised, but almost like algebra. Basically, he's just doing fractions. But I wanted ChatGPT to analyze based on the work, his handwriting, based on the work he did in the question, analyze this and tell me if I'm putting together a lesson plan for him to address this, where do I start? It did it flawlessly, read without one error. It's so much better than it used to be. It used to have these errors. Without one error in any of these things, based on the question and his handwritten answers. It said, this is what he did, this is what he thought through, and here's what I recommend. Here's the concepts that he struggled with. And then I said, give me 5 questions on the first thing I need to kind of drill him in on to get this better. We did 20, so I did 4 sheets of the 5, did it with him, boom, 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 done, sharp. Attacked right where he was struggling. Oh, it was, and I printed it out. Oh, just next level. My point is, when I ask it, well, you got the information from the news, wherever you got it from, you have to really make it source it, because it could have made that up. But let's say it was right and said, because I don't think it's right. I haven't seen anything anywhere ruling out terrorism. I think they're lying. I don't think ChatGPT is right there. But say it is right. Logically explain to me how you can rule out terrorism if you haven't explained what happened. That logic has nothing to do with the information. There is something programmed into ChatGPT to not allow it to go against that narrative with its logic. That is not an accident. It's impossible. You can't go through logical math questions and be able to do that. It's the same logic to say, if they don't know if they haven't released what caused it, or they're saying they don't know what caused it, they can't rule out terrorism. It's impossible. So that's why I crash out on it. And I use it because, kind of fill the dead air, but I messed this segment all the way the hell up. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna chop it up into 2 segments and F it.
That's why the
The
nicest
economy
thing.
was pretty good during this period until COVID hit.
The economy was good, but I mean, like, you can Google markets, you can look at indicators, like everything had been hitting all-time highs since 2013 under Obama, right? Ever since the economy crashed after 2007 and started to recover, that same recovery happened under Trump. And it was happening with pretty low interest rates. And it was just a carry on from Obama's administration.
I actually think that is a fair, who knows how much was it both, but objectively, Trump wasn't bad on the economy, but Trump didn't control the interest rates, but the interest rates being literally zero, basically, to recover from the bank crash, the housing crash of 2008, created a bubble. So that is fair. But that's not something to be able to say Trump was bad unless you're going to also say Obama was bad. And Destiny wouldn't do that.
Will say, well, the economy was really good under Trump. What did Trump even do? He did a bunch of tax cuts and...
Well, yeah, Trump didn't do the tax, but he pushed for them. But that's a pretty big thing.
That's it.
Let me
He
answer-
didn't really
let
do
me-
much
let me
else.
answer that question.
Hold on.
And then as a quick
Wait for Gorka to answer. Gorka just goes off.
thing again, I'm sorry, but my managerial experience in the ordinary world, outside of the YouTube world I live in now, is limited. But I was a supervisor in a restaurant. If I was given a shift and all my tables were dirty, and
I'm sorry. Could you imagine having to work for Destiny? Could you imagine having a job at a restaurant and having to work for this bro right here? I don't know, man. I couldn't do it. Man.
economy was good, but I mean, like, you can tax cuts and that's it.
Let me
This
answer-
is the first time I heard this, that Destiny was a manager at a restaurant.
Let me
watch
answer
out.
that
Hold
question.
on.
And then as a quick thing again, I'm sorry, but my managerial experience in the ordinary world, outside of the YouTube world I live in now, is limited. But I was a supervisor in a restaurant. If I was given a shift and all my tables were dirty, and my manager comes in and she sees my restaurant, it's my ass. I'm in trouble. I can't say, like, well, these employees were working against me and these guys didn't show up and these guys didn't call in. She said, okay, well, you're getting paid the big bucks. It's your responsibility. You're the leader there, right? When Trump was coming into office, because I am an ardent capitalist.
Well, I do have experience, not in restaurant. Well, I do, but not as a manager in a restaurant, just, high school jobs. But beyond high school, I do have experience in that managerial or supervisor role. That's not exactly the case. You never blame anybody else, but the people who report to you, um, they do matter. So Destiny's not arguing against. He's saying that, yeah, they were subversive. He's basically agreeing that they were subversive, but he's just saying it's not an excuse. So I would want to lock him down on that first. Like, you, Destiny. First of all, it sounds like you're admitting that basically everybody under Trump was trying to undermine him, right? And Destiny would probably say yes, because that's the moral thing to do, is what I would think he would say.
The only redeeming quality I saw was, well, okay, he is a business guy. So at the very least, maybe he's got some comprehension in terms of how to get people with different opinions to actually work together. And he is the most divisive leader in like all of U.S. history, or at least in recent U.S. history. The idea that, even his former chief of staff was against him, like that's a point in favor of Trump. These are your people. You're nominated. How is it that every person that's worked with him, how is it that his former...
More emotion from the left. He's the most divisive. I mean, even people on the right don't even call Biden really. They do, but it's usually in response, like Gorka's going to do that here. It's usually in response to this regime type of take, to kind of defend as a not whataboutism, but as a retort. But they don't normally proactively say Biden's divisive, but he gets emotional and does that. I'm going to do a little bit more of this clip, and then I'm going to move on.
Attorney generals, his chiefs of staff, his personal friends, his personal lawyers. When you have this many people around you that are saying to the rest of the world, don't trust this guy. This guy is no good. I don't work with him anymore. I don't trust this guy anymore. Like, at what point do you look at him and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not actually the deep state, every single institution, all of the media, all of the world, all of academia, and all of the politicians against him. Maybe it's just kind of like a bad person who's not very good at getting his job done.
This is, it's like...
I'm going to let Gorka go off, and then Mike has bad needs. I'm going to do the Chat GPT of 08, and then we might go back to another one too, just to hash out some stuff. So good ideas there.
Like you live in an alternate universe. I know you're on YouTube and that those are your qualifications. But
We're all on YouTube, Seb.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I've been banned. I've been banned on YouTube, right? So, I take that as a mark of honor. I'm on Rumble. So this idea that he failed at everything. Yeah, that's a great description of Joe Biden, from mortgage rates to inflation, to the price of energy, to surrendering in Kabul, to the invasion of Ukraine, to October the 7th. Yeah, massive successes in the last 3.5 years. Let's talk about my bailiwick. Let's talk about national security. We had been told by our predecessor, Obama, that ISIS, quote, is a threat we just have to get to learn to live with. Can't be solved, just going to live with it. When we came into the White House, President Trump got the lawyers out of the way and unleashed JSOC and Delta Force. Within 5 months, the camp of ISIS was gone, kaput. China, we initiated a trade war with China. We facilitated the rise of NATO to such an extent that under President Trump's presidency, defense spending shot up by $4 billion inside NATO. The guy who was going to destroy it actually saved it. Then we look at, the Middle East, 5 peace accords in less than 4 years. These are meant to be failures for us. Let's look at the international environment. Under Obama, Ukraine, Crimea, taken. Under Biden, again, a second invasion, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians dead. The largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust in Israel, and then the absolute surrender and betrayal of the Afghan people in a withdrawal that made Saigon look like a small incident. These are supposed to be the successes. And as to this, he's the most divisive. So peculiar, but I find it incapable, I find it impossible to remember my former boss, giving speeches in front of iconic locales such as Independence Hall in Philadelphia, bathed in red fascistic light, with Marines standing flanking him, labeling half of America extremists and fascists, and preaching to us about white supremacy in his State of the Union address. That really brings us together. This is the man who told us, Biden said on his inauguration, I'm going to bring you together by calling half the nation white supremacists, when the real racist problem in America are the Democrats on the campuses saying death to America, from the river to the sea if you're Jewish. That's the left today. Radicals who hate America. I go back to my original point. And then this strange idea of populism, using this label as a smear, some kind of pejorative. I don't know. I remember the good old days where if you had the popular support of the people, that was a good thing. I don't like the elites. They stink. They're corrupt. But a guy comes along who has popular support. No, the elites will decide. Just like Sam Harris destroyed himself on your podcast when he said, I don't care if Hunter Biden had dead children in his basement. Donald Trump and the election in 2020 was, quote, justified. That's the left. That's the other side. Those are the divisive people.
I want
You just saw somebody get graped in the debate. That's awkward, man. I'm sorry. That was an ass kicking. That's the out here getting his ass kicked. That was ugly. There's nothing else to say about that.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.